Welcome back to The Explainer tonight, still getting an understanding of the inner workings of the military. Let me run you through that again. This is the career projection for a military officer. From second lieutenant, you move to lieutenant, and then to captain, and then to major, and then to lieutenant colonel, and then to a colonel, and then brigadier, and then major general, 2-star, lieutenant general, 3-star, and then general, 4-star. And the general answers directly to the commander-in-chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic, who is a 5-star general, whilst he is commander-in-chief. That's what we're talking about. Now, I want you to watch the silhouettes we've put in there, because we will come to that question. You can see male and female. We will talk about that in a minute. But first, we're still here with Brigadier Retired Ahmed Mohammed. Thank you for staying with us. We want to wrap this up. We wanted to start with a question from Mwangi Isaac about the Tonje rules and whether they tie the president on who he should choose for CDF. So we understand, Brigadier, that the Tonje rules are varied and they're wide. But let's stick to his rules regarding succession to the highest office.
Thank you, Yvonne. Please allow me first to go into a bit of history and where this came from. And most will know that our defense forces is built very much along the British lines, the British Defense Forces. And I had the privilege of serving 2 years in the UK, teaching in the Staff College in UK. And I learned a lot. And part of it was this, even before the Tonje rules were put in place. The British have something like this. The rotations. In 1959, they made a major transformation when they did away with the post of a field marshal, which is more like a 5-star actually. Yeah, field marshal. And they said that all the 3 services will have their commanders at the 3-star level.
Okay.
Yeah, so that at any one time, should a rotation come, any of them will be picked, but technically, that rotation will go Army, Navy, Air Force. So that for them, it was the general as CDF, the admiral as CDF, and the air marshal as CDF. Today, the serving CDF is Admiral Tony Radakin from the Navy. After that, the air marshal will come in. Now, how long do they serve? Again, tied to the issue of age.
Yeah.
There's the age limit for them. At that point, they'll go. And for most of them, they get there when they're very old. But when they serve for mostly 2-3 years, and they give way for others to come in. Now, come back to us.
Yeah, because there is a question on that about why we seem to have taken from the British.
Yes.
Have we tried to modify that and adapt that to our, current realities?
And now, ideally, those due to be CDF should be those service commanders. They're the best suited to be CDF. And all that we need to do is possibly think about in the future upgrading the rank of service commanders, both Navy and the Air Force, to the level of 3-star, Lieutenant General. Then that rotation now fits in very well. That you just pick 1, 2, or 3, and they move on. Now, having said that, again, the issue of how this will happen, I'll speak again a bit of precedence. Kenya remains very professional, although sometimes issues may come in. We know what has gone on in Uganda. You've seen a general coming in, from the sides. Let's go to one of our countries, Rwanda. In 2019, Rwanda had, I believe, 2 lieutenant generals, one army commander and one as the vice. Yet, the commander-in-chief, at that time, in the rotation, chose to go for a major general and shot him from major general to 4-star general. Again, re-emphasizing that this is at the prerogative of the commander-in-chief. While those rules are there and regulations, he is at liberty to fit in who thinks will serve him best, based on those 4 points I mentioned earlier. Competence, capability, command experience, and professionalism. So for us, let's go back to General Tonje's rules. Tonje gave one very strong, specific rule, which said, starting with him, all future chiefs of defense staff will serve for 4 years and leave at that point. At that point. So it was 4 years or a compulsory retirement age, whichever came earlier. Okay. Now, of course, at that point, it was 62 years. It became 64 years. And you have seen, in fact, a few have gone before their 4 years because they went to 64. So Tonje put that in place. But what was documented very strongly was the 4 years and age. The issue of that rotation didn't feature very much in terms of instructions as far as I know.
Okay.
But the only point is, he made a statement on that. And he said that even recently, that I made a statement on that. Now, that therefore, at that point, was taken. And of course, we know very well that in the last almost 10 years, precedence has been set.
Yeah.
And that precedence is what now drives us in the way we move on.
Okay, so it's 4 years, or retirement age, whichever comes first. It is ensuring rotation between the different arms of or services of the defense forces.
Yes.
Are those the two key, Tonje rules with respect to succession?
Yes, that's what. In fact, there are almost 10 others, but nothing to do with succession.
Okay.
The issue of pay used to be paid a salary in cash. You're paid, come here, take cash.
Okay.
He said no. You have to go professional. You get your money in the bank.
Wait, so before General Tonje?
Yes.
How were you paid your salary?
Officers were paid through the bank.
Okay.
Cash. But for the soldiers, who were 90% of the armed forces, were paid in cash. At the end of the month, you come and receive your pay and you sign for it. He said no. He said from now on, everybody will be paid in the bank irrespective. Okay. That was a major move.
Okay.
The other thing he did also was about the issue of women. He used to be confined in a small base in like Moya base. He said no.
Yeah.
We are equal. And the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusiveness came from that. And I'm sure you have a question for me coming, which I can answer now.
Yes, from Felix Mutwiri Kirimi, who says, can a woman serve as CDF?
Today, we are all equal. Whether you have man or woman, we are equal. And therefore, we enjoy equal opportunities. And the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusiveness applies so well. I'm happy to say this also to the question asker, that our senior-most women today in the armed forces, surprisingly and fitting in so well, was in training with General Gola in 1984. And today, she's a general. In fact, that intake of 1984 has got 5 generals, 3 from the Air Force and 2 from the Army. And one of them is the senior-most woman in the Kenya Defense Forces. I hope time will come and she'll be the next rank and become CDF maybe in the next 2-3 years. We're looking forward to that.
Who knows? All right, let's take a couple of questions from all of you who have quite a few things. It's a history lesson today. Like we said, all right, let's get those questions. This one is from... Okay, I can't read that, but here it is. Are the ranks a preserve of those conscripted as cadet officers only, or the specialist officers can also rise through the same ranks? Also, shouldn't the VCDF automatically assume the vacant role as a substantive CDF? Because in your opinion, appointing someone else who was probably below your rank denigrates your stature. So this is like 4 questions in one. Maybe we can break it up a little bit. First of all, with are the ranks a preserve of those as cadet, or can specialist officers also rise through the ranks? Well,
since we got our cadets, going through the 11-year training and all that, that used to happen when at independence, when General Zioka, General Mulinge, and General Mahmoud all came from the ranks, the King's African Rifle. They were promoted, all the way, that senior. Today, we actually give them officer positions. We call them specialist SDOs. And we don't take them. They can't rise to be CDF. They'll rise after a point, maybe about Kano, and in the age you'll catch up with them anyway, and then they leave at that point.
Okay. Let's, if you can put that question back on the screen, because it was, quite a few in one. The other one was, shouldn't the CDF, or VCDF rather, automatically assume the vacant role as a substantive CDF?
Well, from what I captured earlier, we have seen precedents in that almost 4 appointments, it has gone back to the VCDF, except in special instances where we found that the officer was retiring, either around that time or the post was vacant. Yeah. Again, most importantly, and we've said this earlier, it remains a prerogative for the Commander-in-Chief.
Okay.
Nothing ties his hands in terms of these things.
Right. And just so we understand, if, the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces then goes, rises through those ranks, or say is at a level of not Lieutenant General, what does the CNC do? They have to name them into the successive ranks to general, so you cannot then skip, just for proper understanding? Yeah,
we said that earlier.
Yes.
In fact, in any professional armed force, you can't skip any. Each rank gives you a specific training and specialization and prepares you for the next one. If you jump it, you'll miss something. So for us, professional, you go through all those ranks up to general.
Let me ask a question. Should the Commander-in-Chief choose to pick on a Major General, this is hypothetically speaking, they would have to go through Lieutenant General position and then to General. So if I were Commander-in-Chief, can I say, okay, I promote you from Major General and then to Lieutenant General, and in the same breath, from Lieutenant General to General, and therefore now you can be CDF. Is that how it's done?
I mentioned the example of Rwanda.
Yeah.
Where in 2019, my good friend, Major General John Bosco Kazura, who was then Major General and Commander of the Staff College, was promoted from Major General,
so
skipping
twice.
2 officers who were there, straight to General.
Right.
Yeah, but both instances will work. He can choose to promote him to one rank, they are all level, but he's CDF and commands respect by virtue of the office, and the rest will respect him for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then later on take him to General. But also, which is very rare, but happens, and not very professional, jump from Major General all the way to General. But again, the hands of the Commander-in-Chief are not tied.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's take another question now and see what else we can answer. This one is from Honorable Gonza. Says, what is the difference between the role of the CDF and the CNC? So CDF and the Commander-in-Chief in the military. Does the CDF directly take instructions from the Commander-in-Chief? If yes, does the CDF remain apolitical? And an important question, because the Commander-in-Chief is also an elected political leader.
Again, I want to go into history.
And perhaps has not served, in the ranks.
I want to go into history again.
Yeah.
Now you take this issue of the general reporting to the Commander-in-Chief. And you go back to our old masters, the UK. And interestingly, this is very interesting, that in UK, you have the General, Chief of Defense Staff, and you have the Prime Minister, and you have the Sovereign.
Yeah.
For whatever reasons, the Commander-in-Chief equivalent is the Sovereign, so the Prime Minister. The CDF will work with the Prime Minister, but that supreme position remains for the King. He's the Commander-in-Chief in that capacity.
So, just to understand the UK, then we can come back to Kenya. The person in charge of the military in the UK would not take instructions from the Prime Minister?
In terms of daily workings, he will.
Okay.
But his supreme organ is the King.
Which means things like going to war, for instance.
Yes.
That would be the sovereign.
That would then. Sovereign.
Okay.
That comes from the sovereign.
Understood.
Even the promotions, the Prime Minister will receive them, but pass on to her to sign.
Yeah.
And say, because it's whatever they get as their, you see, when you're an officer, second lieutenant, you are given a presidential commission. That commission is signed by the president in person, not delegated, saying, the second lieutenant Ahmed Mohammed, I hereby give you powers and promote you as you go along.
I see.
For the UK, that prime position is the Queen, the sovereign, who does that.
Now, Kenya?
For Kenya, as I said, it's the same thing, of course, that that parchment is the name of the president. And for us, the supreme, the commander-in-chief is the president. And therefore, we owe allegiance 100% to the presidency and commander-in-chief. Now, somebody asked, are you political?
Yeah.
Yes. In terms of the sitting president, we have no option. We give him 100% loyalty. But There's a situation where the president goes for elections and he loses. And a new president comes in from the position.
Yeah.
KDF will change immediately and give 100% to the new commander-in-chief. We don't compromise on that. We serve the sitting president at his mercy.
Okay.
And we can't compromise on that.
And here's a question, because then the commander-in-chief is considered a five-star general. When you leave office, you're no longer that five-star general. Do you continue to keep that title?
No.
Of five-star general?
No.
Okay.
Actually, his functions actually end there. And in fact, you'll find that when we actually put those stars, is well in ceremonies and big ceremonies, but otherwise he's not normally featuring anywhere.
All right.
You know, but he remains commander-in-chief. Okay. When he leaves,
the next person,
he will be former president. In fact, what remains is former president. That one is silent, very silent.
There's no
silent. Former commander. He's very silent.
Okay.
He's there, but very silent.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, understood. Let's take another question as we keep going. Fascinating stuff on the program tonight. Here's another one. And this is an important one because this is something that we saw over the weekend. Babu Michael says, we saw the wife to the late General Ogola being handed military equipment. That was the boots, the sword, and the regalia. What does that mean? And if she will return them, do they return them? And if that happens, will the family also continue receiving the benefits that he received?
Now, let me say from the outset that we hold our spouses in a very high position. We respect them, from the spouses of the privates all the way up. And as long as they have joined this family of the armed forces, they are part and parcel of us. Remember, they endure so much. Imagine somebody in Somalia for 1 year serving this country, and the poor lady is in camp without her husband for 1 year. What she goes through is very traumatic. She actually plays a role in the defense of this country, taking care of the children, ensuring they're okay. No more routines go on. It's a great honor, and we respect them for that. And therefore, when this happens, we really come very close to them. And we support them so much in all that they do, so that for the generals now, in fact, for the generals, we always have a moment where we give them those memorabilia of the general to remind them as an honor that they keep this for life. It doesn't come back to us. It goes. In fact, that was what he used to put on. It was his. Now it is for the family. And they keep it forever as a reminder of his service to this great nation.
Okay. Benefits? They are entitled to some
Yes, they are.
benefits?
Keep that very, very, very quiet.
I'm sure, we might not get into the details of it.
Again, we take very good care of them in terms of, they don't just disappear. Take very good care of them in that regard. In fact, worldwide, that is very recognized. I should mention also, at this point, that Mrs. Ogola was the chairlady of the Military Wives Association of Kenya. That post is reserved for the spouse of the CDF. And therefore, that element brings them together to discuss issues of concern, of common interest. Go around, talk to each other, share experiences. Those who are down there, bring them up, guide them, and ensure that we all are playing a role in support of the defense of this great nation.
Absolutely. We have one more question. Yes, let's take a look at that. So Gabi Wakasiaka, what is the exact work of the CDF? Anafanyanga kazi gani? What is the approximate, well, I don't know if you can talk about salaries. Is it a requirement for one to pass through all those ranks to become a CDF? Or the president can even pick well, obviously not an administration police, because that's a different wing. But I think the more important question is the work of the CDF.
Yes, very simple.
What do they do day to day?
Very simple and straight. Command, superintendence, and guidance of the armed forces. And in that, he's assisted by the service commanders. So he is the overall commander of the entire force, and therefore drives everything through the service chiefs and the Defense Council. Okay,
and that's an important one. So this, I think, maybe is the last question we can now get into, which would be, so what happens now, Brigadier? How do we move forward? What are the next steps? I know we'd asked you this at the start. So now, like you said, there is no vacuum. The VCDF is sitting substantively in that office. So where do we go from here?
Yeah, sometimes I like making stories, and it's good to be here.
We love to hear your stories.
I want the public take a situation where we are somewhere in war, either in this country, or let's say in this country.
Yeah.
And we have an officer, the rank of Lieutenant General, leading that operation. And you can see the hostile, the enemy, well ahead of you. And you are at the heat of things, all moving in speed.
Yeah.
And then for some reasons, unfortunately, the senior officer, Lieutenant General, is picked out by enemy fire and dies. Are we saying that we'll stop everything, stop everything, do nothing, and wait for instructions, or go back? That is very clear. And I've said even before, there's never a vacuum in the positions in the armed forces. All positions have either a deputy, a vice, or a second in command. And it's all clear. And in fact, it goes 5 ranks down. Even if you take out the senior one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, somebody else knows that it is my turn. And automatically, he'll take over. When he takes over, he assumes the full functions of the office. He'll command those men in that war fully, as required, employing all the resources to the best of his ability.
And that's what's happening with the VCDF right now?
Right now, who is in charge? Somebody's in charge.
Yeah.
The VCDF is in charge, is in full command, and he'll do that at the pleasure of the commander-in-chief. And it's no hurry. We're not in war. It's no hurry at all. So, by the way, again, what we normally do is, it's a very sensitive position. I'll not take him. I'll go a bit lower. Let's say I was that brigadier. Below me is a colonel.
Yeah.
And for some reasons, the brigadier resigns, retires, or is killed in combat. The colonel takes over, with or without instructions.
Okay.
But as things cool down, he'll get a note from his superior commander telling him, I better appoint you in that position as you go along. Not promoted, to serve in that position in writing, because it's so sensitive. If you don't give it to me in writing,
yeah.
I can challenge you when something happens.
Right.
So quietly, we have those standing instructions and policies that will see a writing going on to whoever it is, they're telling him, from now on, you are in this capacity, serve blah, 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 in that office. So with that, he has full authority to run the function of the office as required, with no doubt at all, with all the respect from his subordinate. In fact, we normally say appointments take precedence over rank. So if you are 10 lieutenant generals and one is appointed a CDF, all the rest, that is their senior, and they have no option. They have no option. He'll be the sir now and take instructions fully from him without doubt. That is how professionalism is applied in the armed forces. That is how we are so clear on how we do things, based on well-written, documented instructions, both in peacetime and combat. And that becomes part of the discipline that guides us as we take on this very important. Remember, there should be no vagueness. There should be no things that are not clear.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. At
any one time. And that's why if you must write to instructions on order, this is what you're going to do. And your terms are always well written to you. Clear to you.
Yeah.
At every rank.
No doubt.
That this is what the office entails, this is what you're going to do. As a brigadier, as a general, as a commanding officer, as a brigade commander, as service commander.
As a cadet even.
Even as a cadet, you know exactly what you're supposed to do.
Right.
They are all well defined. And the good thing is, as you grow into the system, you're always prepared for the next position. In fact, you're always ready for the next rank. It's not things that you go now reading, oh, what is the rank? No. If I'm a colonel, preparing to be brigade commander, I'll go. I know what my boss is doing.
Yeah.
I see them, and it's available in writing. His functions are not hidden. They are in the standing instructions, in the regulation, and all that. So you read them, and you're taught also. When you go for command training, in fact, command is so important for command training. It's so important for us. And you're trained for command in combat. in those hostile environments, in the terrains of Isiolo and Wajir and beyond, how to handle command. But let me say, I know you're coming to the end now,
yes,
that for us, the Kenya Defense Forces, we have done very well. Very, very well in that regard. Prepared officers so well, training both locally, and by the way, one more thing. To get there, you're required to do about 10 courses. There are courses you must do to get the next rank. So if you're weak, if you're idle, and you fail to go for them, forget about it. Professionalism requires that you must do each of those courses before you can go to the next rank. You have no option. And therefore, everybody is prepared for the future. And you have no option in that regard. All done very well. And I praise the armed forces for being very professional, sticking to that, and we stand out in the way we do things.
Brigadier Retired Ahmed Mohammed. Wow. Let me finish that with this tweet from Dan Ivory, who says, excellent commentary. That was poetic, but most importantly, the explanation on the career progression in the force and that KDF has remained professional since independence. I guess one of the ways to close this is what we were saying, Brigadier, during the break, is that it was unfortunate to lose General Ogola, but it provided us with a learning moment and a teaching moment, as the nation. Opening the curtains into the military and how it works and better understanding it. If there's any one good thing that's come out of that, as unfortunate and tragic as it is, it has been that we've gotten a moment to understand that. I think as well to understand the history of the military and the position of those who lead that. And for that, we are very grateful to you. You want to say one last thing?
Yes, one last thing.
Okay.
General Ogola lost his life in serving this country. And one general said one time, and this is a challenge I want to send to Kenyans. How many of us are prepared to sacrifice for this great nation? Yvonne, we are cheating ourselves. We are cheating ourselves. Very few Kenyans are prepared to make a sacrifice for this country. The ideals, the values are all, you see them not being applied as required. And for us, what we say, in fact, one of the generals said it very well when he said, sacrifice is the pinnacle of patriotism. I'm prepared to die for this country. And I have no regrets whatsoever that I'll serve this country. Yeah, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of this country. And I'm prepared to die for it. And we are prepared to make that ultimate sacrifice. The general did this. Very many have done this. Now and in the past. Let's respect them. Let's respect them in all that we do. In fact, we need what the US call a Memorial Day. And we have it, the KDF Day. Yeah. It's one day when you go out and remember those comrades, those veterans who made that ultimate sacrifice. We have a general called General MacArthur, who served in the Philippines. He's well known. And his final words when he went to a staff college, when he retired, was very clear. He said, generals never die. They only fade away. Thank you. General Ogola has not died. It's only faded away. Thank you, Yvonne.
From whence cometh another. So let's close that there. Some very powerful thoughts. I want to leave you with a thought. And I want to challenge you on national television because I've challenged you in private. When are you writing that book, Brigadier?
Yvonne.
There's a saying I have for you. The graves have many, many secrets. Hopefully this doesn't.
Good.
Don't go with all of this away.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brigadier Retired Ahmed Mohammed, who comes from the Horn Institute the Horn International Institute for Strategic Studies. He's the Senior Advisor on Defense and Security. What a teaching moment. Perhaps a show I personally will remember for a long time to come. Thank you for watching as always. Have a good night.